Hello, and welcome to Under 1000. My name's Thomas Flower, and each episode I'll read you a new piece of flash fiction. All of the stories are 1000 words or less. Today, I'll be reading An Infectious Hope. Please be aware that this episode deals with themes of illness and childhood suffering, so if that's likely to upset you or anyone that you're listening with, then you might want to skip this one. The sickness had raged through her body, causing distress where there should have been growth. They didn't know what to do for her. She was so young after all, and nobody had prepared them for the possibility that they might have a baby, only for her to die a few years later. There was no parenting book which spoke to their situation, no guide. All they could do was try to comfort her, and make her life as blissful as possible given the circumstances. It was only when they heard the news that they started to reconsider their options. A new virus had been rampaging across continents, spreading out of America and across the globe at a rapid rate. They could tell that it would arrive in their small corner of the world soon enough, and they welcomed it with open arms. After all, despite being a virus, this new phenomenon did not seem to be a disease, at least not in the traditional sense. Those who caught it were cured of their sicknesses, rather than burdened with more. Flu, chickenpox, coughs and colds, anything caused by other germs, all seemed to be alleviated within a matter of days after catching this strange, miracle cure. They knew what they had to do. The first stop was their doctor. Do you know anything about this new disease? Do you have a sample of it? Do you have any other patients who've had it? What do you think we should do? The questions were frantic and endless. Still, their doctor tried her best to answer them as well as she could. She told them that, no, she hadn't heard of any cases within the country yet. No, she didn't have a sample or know anyone who did, and no, she wouldn't recommend exposing their daughter to this new virus, at least until they could be more sure about the long-term effects and consequences. This many no's came as a surprise and a disappointment to them. They retreated home to reconsider. In the days which followed, new reports were emerging. The miracle cure, it turned out, was not without its drawbacks. As biologists had continued to study the patient zeros of various countries, they had come to the conclusion that this virus was attacking other viral and bacterial cells indiscriminately, causing just as many problems as it solved. It was hardly a major revelation that a germ which feasted on other germs would not pause to consider what would be most helpful or harmful to its human inhabitants, and yet the news was still received as a shock around the world. Many who had staked their hopes onto what had seemed like divine intervention were now wondering how they would adapt to a disease which could cure them at a possibly lethal cost. Scientists advised that they had not seen any fatalities yet, but that there had definitely been complications which appeared as with a more traditional disease, and that if the virus were somehow able to attack bacteria in the stomach, then cases of malnourishment and early death may well be inevitable. The world held its breath to see whether this strange new force would reveal previously unthought of powers or even adapt to become stronger. Meanwhile, in their own little corner of the world, they wondered what they should do. They knew that she was facing an early death anyway, barring medical procedures which they had been warned were likely only to extend the life she could lead by sealing her beneath tubes in a hospital bed. They had already felt desperate and hopeless. Would gambling on this possible cure really be so bad? With prospects so bleak already, they wondered what the real risk for her was. Of course, they would all be exposed if she was, potentially shortening their own lives in a bid to extend hers. They wondered momentarily whether it was stupid to chase something which may well kill them when they were otherwise healthy. But neither of them could face not trying to help her live, no matter the cost. And so, they hatched a plan together. Reports were coming in now of cases within their own country. They knew that the virus would be spreading just as quickly as it had across so many other countries. Though people weren't giving it to one another deliberately anymore, the rate of growth was still sizable, and they were sure that they would be able to catch it soon enough. When cases were finally reported in their city, they made some calls. They were able to find someone willing to share. That evening, they welcomed him into their home. This man who carried something which might cure her or kill them all. They had their doubts still, but they tried not to let it show. They were kind to him, gave him cake and endless cups of tea as they thanked him profusely for what he was giving them in return. And then, in the final, bizarre act, they let him hold their daughter, this precious, broken gem they had been fearing for and mourning almost since her birth. They let him hold her, and hoped that the virus would pass between them, that she would be infected, not to be condemned, but to be cured. That she would be born anew, a girl living in a body without suffering and torment. They placed all their hope into this kindly stranger, who they recognized might easily be giving them a kiss of death rather than a kiss of life. And then, after this one strange, desperate, hopeful moment, he left. They cleared up, put her to bed, watched some TV. Life went on, as they waited to see what would happen to her, and to them. Thank you for listening to Under 1000. I'm your host, Thomas Flower. To follow the show online, look for Under 1000 Pod on Twitter or Facebook, or check out the website at under1000pod.com. If you'd like to support the show on Patreon, go to patreon.com/under1000pod, where you can sign up to read each month's stories in advance, as well as to have a thank you be read during these credits. The theme music is an instrumental version of In Between Days by Nick Tate and the Sharks. To hear the full song and more from the same EP, go to Nick Tate, Nictate, and thesharks.bandcamp.com, or search for them on your favourite streaming platform. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and that you'll join me again next time for some more super short fiction.